I was gonna make a video, like an actual, like edited video about my nearly 6-year anniversary after doing DMT, but I decided to do a live video instead. Uh, a lot of people have been asking me to do an update video, and I did one 2 years after the fact, and now it's been nearly 6 years since the beginning of 2019 and end of 2018 is when I did it. Um, don't quote me on that, I'm not sure, but so updated version of my DMT trip. The last time I had a DMT experience was actually a residual effect from doing the drug a few years later after. I mean, if you haven't seen the video, then I'll just give you a quick recap. I was at work and I had a one could call panic attack of sorts, brought on by alcohol. But the experience, so it was, I wasn't drunk. It was the next day, and I was very hungover, and I was so hungover that I decided to like try and hair the dog, drink myself a little drink to, a little drinky poo to calm yourself down. And what ended up happening was I triggered what I can only describe as a DMT flashback, because many times in my life I've been drunk and I've woken up hungover horribly after being blackout drunk. And this experience was so vastly different than that. The experience I had waking up after this drunken episode was exactly like having a bad trip in DMT. The taste of the DMT was back in my mouth, even though I hadn't smoked it in years. The light, everything, the fractals came back, and this is all from a hangover. Years after doing DMT, I had DMT-like symptoms, and so a lot of people like to criticize me in the comments section of my DMT ruined my life videos, saying that, well, it didn't ruin your life, you ruined your life, or drugs, or this, or your psychosis, or whatever. Yes, you're all right. You're all right. I can't argue any one of you. DMT alone didn't ruin my life. I am the ruiner of my own life. I've done the damage I've done to myself. And like so many people, I attempted to do DMT to stop thinking of unaliving myself, stop the paranoia, stop the craziness, the sadness and depression. Like so many other videos will tell you, oh, DMT has cured you. Like I'm one of those people who are going to tell you straight up, if you have mental health issues, DMT, at least for me personally, was not a cure, and it wasn't even close to being a pill. So, that being said, all that out of the way, 6 years later, I know I'm always going to be some sort of manic, some sort of depressed my entire life. A doctor recently tried to diagnose me borderline personality disorder, and bipolar, and it's like, yeah, you can diagnose me this or that. That's fine. We all have our symptoms. We all have our issues. And as someone who was on the spectrum of depression, suicide, and self-harm, and all that, I do want to stand as somebody for people like me who are thinking of doing psychoactive drugs. I am just an example of someone with mental health issues that shouldn't take it, shouldn't do it. It didn't do me any favors. The first 2 trips I had were magical. They were crazy. Lots of visual experiences and everything. But in the long run, mentally and spiritually, it wasn't a good idea. It wasn't a good thing. And it totally effed up my life for years. So when I type DMT ruined my life in that video, I literally meant it. And now 6 years later, it hasn't. 6 years later, I can safely say, and hold on a sec. There is no way in heaven or hell I would have ever caught myself saying what I'm about to say to you, but this time last year, I would have laughed at myself and just stopped watching the video from this point. But in all actuality, the only thing that's ever come close to getting me out of my depression, the only thing that's ever come close to stopping the suicidal demons always whispering in my ear, has never been DMT, never been alcohol, never been food, never been a woman, it's been Christ. Now, this is the part where the non-believers and people like me last year give up on the video and hang up and say, no, 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 no way. When I was finally able to drop my ego and finally ask at the most rock of bottoms, when suicide was literally the next second, where I was about to take it, it was about to be the end of my life. When I dropped my ego and I finally gave in and said, God, please come to me. Lo and behold, I ended up being baptized for the second time this summer at a farm by a great man in a great place, a very holy place. I have moments of weakness where Jesus comes to me, where I go to Jesus and I pray to God and I try to be with the angels, and they're there. They've always been there, but when our ego is so high driven and linked with the devil, we don't want to listen. We want to think that Christians are crazy, people who believe in Jesus are crazy, yet we're the suicidal ones. You know, it's like you're about to end your life and you think you're nuts, but you're even more crazy because you don't want to believe, because you're thinking of believing in God. It's insanity. So like I wanted to say, the only thing that's ever come close and that has succeeded in saving my life is the belief in Jesus Christ, the Son of God, our Father. And I'm very blessed to have dropped my ego, dropped the nonsense, the disbelief, and have found him when he's been there the entire time. For any of you watching who are thinking of trying DMT, the hardcore Christians, the hardcore Bible-thumping Christians would want me to tell you that it is a demonic place, it is a demonic drug. It opens your neural pathways and your portals up to the demonic realm, and Satan and all his demons get in, and I don't know about all that. All I can say is try and actually find God first. Try and look for Jesus first. Jesus particularly. I would say if you are on the final string of your life, the final hair where you're about to give up and give it all away to that void or whatever you believe in, for once in your life, actually trying and let go of the ego and give it to Christ, and you'll be surprised. Drop what you're doing. If you're not a reader, go to a church. Spend time in a church. Before you think of ending your life, just go and be around holy people, or people who are at least trying to be holy. Add yourself to YouTube channels that talk about the Bible, talk about Christ. Add yourself to those type of groups and just soak in what they have to say, even if you don't agree with them completely, even if you don't agree with that sect of Christianity. Just bathe yourself in it. I mean, you're going to end your life anyways, right? So why not take that last chance, that one chance, into thinking that maybe you've been wrong this entire time, and that billions of people throughout the ages have followed Christ for a reason. And it hasn't been just because people read a book. It's much more than that. It is far grander than that, more than any Buddhist meditation, it is prayer is the ultimate. So that's where I am now. I'm never going to be a perfect person. I'm always going to suffer my entire life. I've suffered so much. That's what brought me to DMT in the first place. And I know I'm going to suffer still, but there was once a man in history, in time, who suffered more than any life form has ever suffered. And he did it for us. He suffered and he died for us. And that sacrifice is something morally that I strive and thrive to be as a man. That's what gets me going. That's what keeps me alive. Wanting to emulate that. That man deserves my attention before I give up on life. And when I finally gave it to him, he showed up, and he is the sole reason I am keeping alive to this day. So, DMT 6 years later, don't do DMT. Don't do it regardless of what strand it is, the NN-dimethyl, whether it's 5-MeO or you're licking a toad or whatever, don't. That is my personal opinion, educated opinion. You don't need to do it. I think the closer you get to Christ is the more powerful you become, the less needing of substances. You know, I'm having a smoke, but I'm not partaking in the other things that always ruined my life. I am getting better, baby steps, slowly but surely, with the help of God. It's a beautiful thing. It is really a miracle. So, if you're thinking of doing DMT because you have no answers for life and you want to escape reality, I'm telling you, just go find Christ first. And if you're doing DMT because you're a psychonaut and you just want to experience that high, do it. If you have no mental issues, if you have no previous history of, mental disorders or anything like that, give it a shot. Test it out. Try it. I'm promising you that your relationship that you could have with Christ is far more powerful than any DMT trip you'll ever have. But you won't listen to me. None of you are actually going to listen to me. You're not. I can only try my best to convince you, which I might not do, but I'm trying. In the name of God, I'm trying. So, my life has gotten so much better in just the last year. I went and I worked on a farm this summer, and I learned a lot from the farmer. He was a great man, a very holy man, and he baptized me in his man-made pond. It was a beautiful experience. Although I don't agree with a lot of his biblical ideologies, the fact that he was a holy man and a believer in Christ was all that I needed to learn from him. Like, for anybody who's doubting it, just go to a church. Doesn't mean you have to believe everything you're sitting there listening to. As long as you're surrounded by it, it's going to impact you in the way it's supposed to. And now I'm in school. It's the first time in 24 years that I've been in school. I dropped out of school very young because I'm super ADHD. They were giving me Ritalin when I was 2 years old. I was so hyperactive and I was deaf, and so I wasn't a listener, but I was also all over the place, and the education system in the 80s and 90s had no idea how to deal with somebody like me. So I got improper education, and now I can finally say I'm actually like a pre-college student now. I'm in George Brown College in Toronto, and I'm taking courses on how to reprogram myself into school because I want to become a PSW, which is a personal support worker. My father was disabled my entire life, and I took care of him growing up. And I thought I was going to be an actor or a social media person or someone of influence, like famous. And God, I so don't want any of that now. It's such a reversal. I never want to be famous. I never want to be pointed out in a crowd. That's not. I just want to help people who are unable to help themselves. And my father died, and I wasn't able to say goodbye to him. But my entire life taking care of him, it only makes sense that I become a personal support worker because that's what I did for my father, who's no longer with me. But I can still do that for others. So I'm back in school learning how to do that, how to become that. And a year ago, I couldn't have even imagined that I would be saying this out loud. It's a magical thing. It's a beautiful thing. God's plan for us is for us to help one another. It's not to run us down and join factions and groups to make fun of one another or ridicule one another. The point in being alive is to help everyone and to love everyone. And sounds hippy dippy, but yes, it did. Long story short, DMT ruined my life for many years, but now after finding Jesus Christ, my life is saved and I'm back in school and everything is going as planned and everything is beautiful because I have Christ with me. That's my message to you. I hope it bleeds through to you. I hope it makes sense to you. God bless.